Okay then, so next up I'd like to create some data for this project, the different projects that we're going to list on the page. And again, we're going to use JSON server to do this, but I promise in the future we will be using databases instead. But for now, let's just create a data folder inside the root of the project. And then inside that, I'm going to create a new file called db.json to store our data inside. Okay, so inside this file, I want to paste in my JSON, and it's very, very simple. Remember, it starts with curly braces, then the resource name as a key, and it has to be in double quotes. All of the keys do, in fact. The resource value is an array, and inside that array we have different objects, and there's 2 in total. Each one must have an ID, and we also have a title, details, and a complete property as well. Now these are self-explanatory, but this one right here, this dictates whether the project is complete. Now later on we're going to style these differently, so if a project is complete then it's going to be green in color, if it's not it's going to be reddish. So then that is our data. Next we need to install the JSON server into this project, because remember, we install it on a project by project basis. We don't install it just to our computer once and then use it in whatever project we want to. We install it to each project. It becomes a dependency of each project. So let's do that in a new terminal by clicking this button and typing npm install JSON-server. And once that's done, we can type in JSON-server space /watch space, and then we go into the data folder /db.json and press enter to watch that file. And now we have access to this endpoint right here, which we can use inside our home component, because this is where we're going to list that project data. So the first thing I'm going to do here is create our mounted hook, because this is where we're going to fetch our data once the component has mounted the DOM. So inside here we can use the fetch API and pass in the endpoint we just copied, and that's going to get us all the projects. Now this is asynchronous. It takes some time to do, returns a promise, so we can tack on a then method whereby we get the response in a callback function, and then we want to take the response and pass the JSON, much like we have been doing in the past. Now we also want to tack on a then method to this, because this is asynchronous, and then we fire a callback function over here with the actual data, and with that data we want to update a property in our component. Now let's create that property by using the data function, and then we need our comma at the end of this before mounted. Inside here, return an object whereby we have a projects property. Now to begin with, that will be an empty array, but we're getting back here an array of projects. So we can say this.projects is now equal to the data we get back. So at this point, once we fetch that data, we're updating this array with the array of data we get back here from db.json. So these projects, okay? So we also want to tack on a catch block, and that will fire a function where we're taking the error as an argument, and all we'll do is log that to the console just in case there is some kind of error. You could output the error message if you wanted to, like this. Okay, so now we have this fetching the data and updating this property. Now what we need to do is output all of the projects after we have them. So I only want to do this if this has a length. If it doesn't have a length, there's no point in us trying to cycle through the projects. So let me first of all delete this text, home, and then next create a div. And this div is going to have viv attached to it. And I'm going to set that equal to projects.length. So now, if this is an empty array, this will be false, and it won't show this div and anything inside it. If this has elements inside it, after we've fetched the data and assigned it right here, then this will be true. It will have length. So then it will output whatever is inside this div. Okay, so inside here we want to cycle through the projects. So another div, and we'll use v4 to cycle through them. And I'm going to say for project in projects. Remember, this can be called what you want. I just call it the singular of whatever we're cycling through. We also need the key property, and that's why we're getting this error at the minute. And we bind to the key because this is going to be a dynamic property, and it's going to be the project.id. Remember, this must be unique for each item. In our case, this is unique because in the data, each project has a unique ID right here. Okay, so we have the key. Inside this div now, we want to output the project title. So I'm going to do a paragraph tag to do that, and then just say project.title. So none of this really should be new, which is why I'm going through this a little bit quicker. All we're doing is grabbing the data in the mounted hook, updating the projects, then when we have the projects, we're looping through them, and we're outputting the title for each one. So if we save this and preview, we should see the title for each project. And we only have 2. But that's fine, that's all we need for now. So now we have that data showing on the screen. Next, we're going to focus on these individual projects and create a little component that we can use for each one of them.